medium picture question.
Sure.
You obviously ran the ball extremely well in the opener.
Uh-huh.
You expect LSU to kind of look at that and make that a priority on their defense?
I mean, you have no idea what the other team's game plan is going to be, so that's part of the beauty of football. So, you got to obviously come out. We'll have a plan going into the game. They'll have a plan going into the game, and then you see how those two match up. That's part of the process. And I've been in games when you say, hey, we got to run the ball, and then we end up throwing it 60 times. Because what happened during the course of the game dictates what the play calls end up being, and that's part of how the game itself expresses itself. There's been games when I was at Oregon and we played Auburn in the national championship game, it was going to be the highest scoring affair ever. It was 22-19. So sometimes I think expectations going into the game aren't how the game expresses itself. So you got to be able to, we've always tried to approach it. We have to be a balanced team. Because there's going to be times we're going to have to run a lot, but there's also going to be times we're going to have to throw it a lot. And really it depends on not only what the defensive game plan is, but what happens in the course of the game. You catch yourself down early, and you're going to have to throw it a little bit more. If all of a sudden for some reason you're up, their special teams made some plays, your defense made some plays and scored some points, then all of a sudden it may turn into a little bit more of a running game. So you got to be able to do both against a really good defense that we're going to face on Saturday, and then we'll see how the game expresses itself.
Do they have an edge having film on you from 2021 and you don't have any of them?
I think maybe, but we also have the edge that we had a chance to play a game. So, you always hear the analogy that your biggest improvement is from game 1 to game 2. So there's a lot of things that we need to clean up from game 1, but we wouldn't know about that until we played game 1. So there's pluses and minuses both ways. So. There is unknown on our side because they do have new coordinators on both sides of the ball. So, will we get what we expect to get? I don't know. We don't have any evidence of what it's going to be like. We can guess about it and look at it, but we're going to have to make some adjustments early on both sides of the ball.
When we talked to you a couple of weeks ago and told you Miles Brennan was out for the season, you seemed pretty well versed on Max Johnson already and what he did last year. What have you seen on him in your game study this week?
He's really athletic. There is no game study. It's the same as last time we had the conversation because they haven't played a game. So,
but you saw him.
He's an
play
athletic kid.
He's
played last year. He can beat you with both his arm and his legs. That's maybe a little bit more factor than the other guy because I think he really has the ability to run the football. So you have to be prepared. You have to be disciplined in your rush lanes against him. If they're going to go back to their 2019 form and throwing the ball all over the lot, then you still have to be really disciplined in how you rush this guy because he can beat you with his feet also. So there's obviously a lot of talent around him, but he is truly a dual threat guy that we have to be aware of, that he can beat you with both his arm and his leg.
Sam Razzo, is he progressing in practice in terms of what he's participating in?
Yep, Sam's doing a really good job, and every day he does a little bit more, so we'll see how he ends up.
So no word on whether or not he'll be active Saturday?
Today is Wednesday, so.
Okay.
Dorian has a history of being a little bit amped up in season openers and then pretty quickly settling into the season. Do you expect to see him a little more composed, maybe with his throws on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, we expect everything out of Dorian. I think, and the great part about Dorian is he always has played his best in our biggest games. So, when you look at some of the bigger games we've played over the last couple of years, he's always been really good in those games. So, and we'll leave him to be good against a really good team on Saturday.
So you just acknowledge this is a bigger game?
No, I acknowledge that every game is a bigger game.
Okay.
So as you step up the ladder, the next game is bigger than the other game. So as we keep going, and that's how he approaches it too. So if he has struggled in an opener, then the next game he plays really well in because the next game is the biggest game you play.
Ed Ogeron this morning said LSU is preparing as if this is a bowl game for them. Even if you don't look at it as a bigger game, is it tough knowing that the other team is going all out?
Every game is the biggest game. No, I mean,
yeah.
Have you ever seen a coach that says we're not going all out in a game? So
no.
We're going all out. This is our Super Bowl. So, and it's their Super Bowl because it's the next game on the list. So I don't know any coach will say that this game isn't that important. We put everything we had into our Hawaii game plan, and we executed a little bit better than Hawaii executed, and that's why we ended up on the upside of it. But we didn't look at Hawaii and say, this one's not that important, let's get ready for the other one. It's never going to be that way. And I don't think you're ever going to have a coach ever say that because that's just not how you approach it. You only get to play 12 games a year. So to put more weight on one game than you do another game then shame on you, because usually if you're not going to put enough weight on it, you're probably going to end up on the downside of it. So You know, every game we play is the most important game we play. So every week is the Super Bowl for us, whether it's a conference game or not a conference game or whoever the opponent is. When you only get 12, you better take all of them very seriously, and we do.
I'm sure you can appreciate the fans look at this as a big opportunity for UCLA to make a statement about.
Yeah, we understand that. Yeah, but that doesn't affect how we change things or what we do. Our practice schedule hasn't changed. What our Tuesdays like, what our Wednesdays like, what our Mondays like doesn't change in terms of our approach to how we approach it. You have to be consistent in your approach and how you're going to handle things. But we understand that we're playing a Power 5 team, not a Group of 5 team. I mean, we're not. We understand that part of it.
You talked about Todd Graham having an aggressive mindset with defense last week.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen, or what tendencies have you noticed with Coach O and his defense and his offense?
Well, it's a brand new defense, so there is no tendencies. You know, so it's a new coordinator who came from the National Football League. So, you know, we'll be able to answer that question better after the game. But you don't really have any tendencies going into the game because the coordinator wasn't calling the defense at where he came from in the NFL either. So you don't say, all right, here's his book. You know, so if you were going to play against a Clancy Pendergast, well, you could look at what he did when he was the NFL as a coordinator, as a play caller. You know, this guy has never been the play caller, so you don't have an idea. But I do know with Coach O at the top that it's going to be a hard-nosed, physical defensive football team because everywhere he's been, that's what it's been. So that's what we expect.
Building off of that, with what you have seen, what you have researched, how do you feel your offensive line will go against their defensive line?
Again, we'll figure that out when we get to the game. So, I mean, we have not played them. We don't have any common opponents. So you don't have anybody that you said, hey, this team that we played did this against them, and we really know that player intimately. So you know, that's the beauty of trying to play in some of these out-of-conference games when there's not a lot of intimate knowledge of your opponent. That's just the nature of the game. And the same for them. They don't have a very intimate knowledge of us because they haven't played anybody that we played. So everything you do is based off of looking at the tape and the film and trying to project. But early in the game, we're all going to have to make adjustments, both offensively and defensively, for what they're doing, and they're the same on their side. So.
How do you feel the offensive line has been doing this week preparing for the game?
They've done a really nice job. You know, we've had a good 2 days. We had a good Monday and a good Tuesday, and we're looking forward to putting a really good day of work into that.
The athletic department's made a big effort to fill the stands with some ticket initiatives this week. How appreciative are you that they're trying to make this an electric atmosphere for these games?
We're always appreciative of our fans. I love our fans, and I think you really truly appreciate, if you're anybody in college football, what fans are all about after going through what we went through last season. You know? And our first time when we went to the Rose Bowl last year, it was a Sunday morning versus Cal, and there was nobody there, and it was no other way to say it than it was just eerie. You know, it was just really strange. You know, so you love it when you can. You know, it's part of the pageantry of college football that makes the game so exciting is to get the fans back in the stands. So we're going to be excited to get the Rose Bowl back on Saturday.
You talk about Max Johnson being a threat with his legs. You played Chevin Cordero last week. How do you think you did against a mobile QB last week? And are you glad you got a mobile QB under your belt last week as kind of preparation?
I think our guys did a decent job. There were some times that we had opportunities to get him down, you know, some unblocked guys in sack situations, but we didn't finish at the ball. That's a big point of emphasis for our defensive staff this week. You know, I think we could have got to him a little bit more, but he was a little elusive, and there was a couple times where he shook us. We've got to come to balance and be able to maybe not trying to make a knockout hit, but just make sure that we get him to the ground, and that's really what you're going to have to do with this guy this week.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.